Lyric's World. Chapter 2. The Jedi Knight Tian walked over to Tahiri, Anakin, and Lyric. "How's your memory work going?" she asked. Tahiri frowned. She didn't want to do the exercise right now. It was more interesting to learn about Lyric. She'd never met a melody before, and she wanted to know more about Yavin 8 and Lyric's species. Tahiri sighed. The conversation would have to wait until later. She smiled at Tian, then turned to Lyric. "Why don't you tell us a memory that you want to recall?" Tahiri said to the melody. Lyric shyly looked at Tahiri, her large yellow eyes earnest. "Let me think for a moment," she replied, and closed her eyes. While Anakin waited for Lyric's memory, he began to doodle on a sheet of paper. He was drawing the strange symbols he and Tahiri had seen carved deep in the jungle, in the crumbling stones of the palace of the Woolamander. Symbols which were not only carved above the entrance to the palace, but deep within its base, down a dark spiral stairway, in the place where Anakin and Tahiri had discovered the mysterious golden globe. In that place, they could almost taste the evil of those who use the Force to serve the dark side. Anakin forgot about Lyric and Tahiri and closed his eyes, letting himself drift back to the jungle, back 1 week when he and Tahiri had rafted the river of Yavin 4 and raced through the rain-soaked jungle to find refuge from the howling winds. Recalling places and memories, whether they were recent or far past, was a skill he'd always had. At this very moment, Anakin could smell the dusky sweetness of the Massassi trees that lined the lush moon, could see their dark, purplish bark. He could feel the cool soil of the jungle, wet from the storm that had threatened to capsize he and Tahiri's raft. Anakin moved toward the place he and Tahiri had found to escape the storm, the palace of the Woolamander, and stood beneath its entrance, staring up through the rain at the strange carvings in its crumbling stones. Then he moved inside the palace and down a dark corridor. He heard the skittering of hundreds of Woolamanders as they raced away from his intrusion. Anakin found the crumbling spiral stairway he and Tahiri had descended and slowly dropped into the depths of the palace, to the place where evil coated the stones and called out warnings in a voice laced with danger. When Anakin reached the base of the steps, he stared at the symbols carved in the wall of the small room. Only a week before, he and Tahiri had used the Force to open a hidden passage and reveal the golden globe that had lain in secret for thousands of years. Tahiri had tried to touch the sphere, to break its smooth crystal surface, but a powerful field had thrown her into the stone wall. The globe was untouchable, at least until he and Tahiri could figure out what evil curse surrounded it. Out of the corner of his eye, Anakin saw Ikrit, the furry white creature he and Tahiri had found sleeping at the base of the globe. He hadn't known then that Ikrit was an ancient Jedi Master who had drawn both him and Tahiri to the globe. Drawn them to break a curse he'd later told them only children, strong in the Force and trained to be Jedi Knights, could break. A curse that no one, not even Luke Skywalker, could know about or help them undo. "Anakin's lost in thought as usual," Tahiri said, breaking his memory. Lyric smiled softly, then looked over at Anakin. He'd been drawing on a sheet of paper with his eyes closed. She glanced down at the sheet, then drew in her breath sharply. "What's wrong, Lyric?" Tahiri asked. The girl had gone from pale skin to white, and her hands had shot up, covering her eyes with fingers that were linked at their base with pink webs. "Those symbols," Lyric began. "What about them?" Anakin asked excitedly. "Have you ever seen them before?" Anakin was certain that understanding the symbols carved in the palace was the next step towards solving the riddle that locked the golden globe. "Do you know what they mean?" he asked Lyric. "No!" Lyric cried. "But you recognize them," Tahiri prodded. "You've seen them somewhere before." "Yes," Lyric said in a voice that had lost its bubbly quality and now came out in a plaintive gurgle. "Is it that you can't remember or that the memory is too frightening?" Anakin said gently. "That's what this exercise is about. We'll help you remember. Please try, it's important." Lyric closed her eyes and didn't reply. Anakin could sense her torment. "Do you at least remember where you saw the symbols?" Tahiri asked. "I'd never been off my moon before I came to the academy," Lyric finally said. "It was on Yavin 8. "Please tell us," Anakin said softly. "Please. It's important." Lyric looked up and met Anakin's eyes. She steeled herself to remember, to conquer her fear and put into words an experience of terror that she'd blocked from her mind and never spoken of before. "I saw those symbols in the purple granite of my mountain," Lyric began in a faltering voice. She paused, trying to calm herself and let the memory flood back in an icy cold wave. They were carved beside the nest of a giant avril, and the last time my eyes fell upon their strange design, I was about to be ripped to shreds by the creature's razor-sharp beak. "What do you mean, ripped to shreds?" Tahiri said with surprise. "I mean eaten for dinner by a giant bird with a razor-sharp beak and 20-centimeter talons," Lyric replied. "I was out gathering trico, a plant our young eat, in the tundra below the mountains." "This will make no sense unless I tell you a bit about my people," Lyric said, interrupting her own story. "I'm from the species called Melodies. We live deep in the purple mountain named Sistra, on the moon Yavin 8, Lyric explained. "Our elders, those who have undergone the changing ceremony, live in pools of crystal blue water that run through much of our city. The children, all those who have yet to change, live around the pools in the caves and caverns of the mountain. It is our job to care for each other since the elders cannot leave the water, and to watch the eggs." "What eggs?" Tahiri interrupted. "Melodies are humanoid," Lyric reminded Tahiri. "We hatch from eggs spawned by our females. The eggs are kept in a dry cavern within the mountain. When we hatch, we look like human infants. And those of us who haven't changed, who are awaiting our 20th year, when we are taken to a shallow cove to begin our transformation, care for the young. Part of that care is to gather trico, which is made into a paste to feed our infants until they are old enough to eat the silver-backed fish that we catch in the pools within the mountain. When we leave the safety of our home to gather trico," Lyric said, "we travel in groups. Sometimes that isn't enough, though, and the avrils still attack." "What exactly are avrils?" Anakin asked. "They're enormous birds of prey with vibrant blue beaks and talons. Their bodies are about 2 meters long and covered with thick black feathers. When an avril's wings are spread, the span can measure up to 8 meters. They feed on wraiths, giant black rodents with thick, hairless green tails, reels, deadly snakes that kill their prey by squeezing the breath out of their bodies, and the purella, a bristle-haired red spider that traps its prey in a thick black web and slowly feeds on it. But their favorite food by far is young melodies. That's why we travel in groups, so that they're less likely to attack. And so that if we come across any of the other predators on our planet, we can fight them together." Lyric was silent for a moment. She began to recall a memory she visited only in nightmares. "Several years ago, I was gathering trico when we heard the shriek of an attacking avril," Lyric said softly. "There were 5 of us, and we began to throw the rocks we carry for defense. I can remember the bird's smell even now. It was sour and dank, and the black feathers that covered its body furrowed as it attacked. We ran out of rocks before the creature tired. And moments later, I felt sharp talons wrap around my body, and I was airborne. There was nothing the other melodies could do but fill their sacks with trico and return to the mountains without me. They were certain that I was dead and would soon be devoured by the avril." "Your friends just let the avril fly away with you?" Tahiri said in shock. "Yes," Lyric replied, her eyes wide with remembered terror. "There was nothing they could do.